There have been a ton of cult favorite brands in Singapore that at the time seemed too big to fail. But why did they fail to capture Singapore, and what led to these mega brands being kicked out of the country? We're starting with Carrefour. What a nostalgic thing to say. Do you remember Carrefour?
I only remember one outlet, Plaza Sing.
Yeah, they're known for their long travelators. But damn, brings back memories. The French supermarket juggernaut Carrefour stormed into Singapore in 1997 with ambitious plans to dominate the local supermarket scene. Also guys, I already googled, it's pronounced Carrefour, not Carrefour, not Carrefour. I used to pronounce Carrefour, but yeah, it's called Carrefour. Back then, FairPrice was the reigning champ in Singapore, so when Carrefour announced that it was expanding to Singapore, it definitely made FairPrice ballsack quiver in fear at the looming showdown that they were about to embark on. It was like a David vs Goliath situation. Although FairPrice was a local champion with a 50% share of the Singapore market and 60 outlets sprinkled across our tiny island, Carrefour was a global titan.
Carrefour?
Carrefour. The French juggernaut boasted over 250 stores globally back then, including a rock-solid Asian empire with 33 outlets in China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Thailand. In 1997, net income soared to a staggering 12 billion Singapore dollars, dwarfing FairPrice's respectable but modest $720 million, like a skyscraper overshadowing an HDB block. Okay, maybe not an HDB block, $720 million is still very respectable. I would say FairPrice was like a condo, right? And then Carrefour was a skyscraper. Yet what truly set pulses racing was Carrefour's game-changing weapon, the hypermarket. It was the first time this concept was brought into Singapore, and it wasn't your average grocery shop. Carrefour had perfected a retail revolution, unleashing massive stores that blended everyday essentials with a dazzling array of electronics, appliances, and fashion. It was a supermarket pumped up to Herculean proportions, and it threatened to rewrite the rules of the game in Singapore. Whenever my parents wanted to bring me to Carrefour for like grocery day, you know it was gonna be a fun day because there were so many things to look at. You look at clothes, electronics, you know, it's just so stimulating in Carrefour. FairPrice Group CEO Tan Kian Chew even said when Carrefour landed, it was like an intrusion by aliens into Singapore. They were among the top 10 operators, very big and very aggressive. Carrefour was so confident, in fact, that they had plans to open one hypermart every year for 5 years in Singapore, even before their first outlet had opened. Honestly, I think this is a good thing. Like, competition is always a good thing, especially in such a small place like Singapore, because you don't want a single entity dominating and controlling the prices of any industry, really. So I think this was a wake-up call for FairPrice. Because Carrefour had a worldwide network, they could draw on their economy of scale to buy products at a much lower price, even making a bold guarantee that Carrefour's prices would be 10 to 30% lower than its rivals, aka FairPrice. And this hit FairPrice right at its core value of providing affordable essentials to its customers at fair prices. The only option for FairPrice was to counter-attack. This is our home country, you cannot pack up and go, said Tan Kian Chew, and thus commenced one of the biggest unseen battles in supermarket history. Carrefour's debut at Suntec City caused great hype among Singaporeans with its huge layout and signature travelators. FairPrice, on the other hand, had to watch gratefully from the sidelines. But the final straw broke when Carrefour decided to secure a lease at Hougang Point, a mall in the heartlands of Singapore. The heartlands are FairPrice's home territories, their home ground. Almost every heartland in Singapore, you would see a FairPrice because that's their target audience. So when Carrefour wanted to bid for a lease in Hougang Point, FairPrice couldn't just sit around and watch as this unfolded because they were stepping into their territory. Chandras Das, FairPrice's chairman, took drastic actions by securing a meeting with Far East Organisation, who was the mall developer of Hougang Point, where they stated that they would match whatever Carrefour offers. This fearless counter-attack thwarted Carrefour's expansion dreams, and the lease was finally awarded to FairPrice. Losing Hougang Point proved a crucial blow to Carrefour. If Carrefour had gotten Hougang Point, my guess is that they would have gotten a few more and they would have stayed, said Chandra Das. After a grueling 9-year slugfest, Carrefour waved the white flag in 2012, abandoning Singapore with a bitter admission it couldn't topple FairPrice from its perch. In the hypermarket business, if you don't have the economy of scale of at least 5 good outlets, you are unlikely to make any money, Tan Kian Chew explained. FairPrice had crushed its fiercest foe by snatching Hougang from Carrefour's grasp. In 1997, they landed a devastating early strike, and against all odds, the local champion had stared down a global Goliath and emerged victorious. The surrender came in 2012 when Carrefour announced that it was pulling out of Singapore, and honestly, I was very sad that there was no more Carrefour in Singapore because it's is a childhood thing for me. Carrefour has this very atas feel to it. Like, hey, let's go Carrefour. Like, oh shit, boy, we going Carrefour and not NTUC. While we're on the topic of retail giants, we have to talk about the online retail giant, Q10, another very nostalgic brand.
Q10 or QOO10?
Q10.
Q10.
Q10? I used to pronounce Q10 lah. What do you used to say? QOO?
I say Q10.
Q10. Yeah, I think easier to say, you know. Q10, which was once a leading e-commerce platform in Singapore, is now facing a winding up process. Like very recently, this was just announced only last year in 2024, which basically means that they are being forced to sell all their assets and pay back their creditors. But how did this Singapore-registered company, which back then seemed too big to fall, actually meet its demise?
19 claims have been filed with the Small Claims Tribunal against Q10.
Business owner has been owed around 100,000 Singapore dollars.
Q10 was the biggest online shopping platform in Singapore way back then, even before Shopee and Lazada were a thing. It was the first big shopping portal to introduce the concept of online shopping mall, where you could find almost anything you wanted, and Singaporeans ate that shit up because it was the first time, like this whole internet mega mall concept. And I would say that it was Q10 that first made Singaporeans believe in the concept of buying through an online portal and not Shopee or Lazada. Q10 was the OG. It was the OG online shopping platform in Singapore, at least. Q10 originated from G Market. Wow, fucking G Market, dude. Damn nostalgic. You know what G Market is? Sounds familiar. You know what Q10 is? You got hear before, Q10. Okay, so Star, he's like early 20s. You never heard of Carrefour before, right? And I'm sure a lot of you guys, my younger viewers, have never heard of Carrefour before as well. But there will be more nostalgic brands that we'll be talking about for my older viewers, my millennials and Gen Xers. Q10 originated from Gmarket, a South Korean platform founded in 2000. It was acquired by eBay in 2009 for $1.2 billion and rebranded as Q10 in 2012. It raised significant funds, including $82 million from Singapore Press Holdings. So SPH actually invested in Q10, a Singapore company, to compete with emerging rivals Shopee and Lazada. And while Shopee and Lazada splashed money on dancing influencers, Q10 had a different approach and adopted a completely different strategy of acquiring other e-commerce platforms, such as India's ShopClues in 2019, South Korea's Tmall, and WeMakePrice in 2023, and even US-based Wish.com, the infamous Wish.com, in 2024 for $173 million in cash. So yeah, in 2024, Q10 bought over Wish.com, which we will see why perhaps wasn't the smartest of choice. And it's imperative to point out that they bought Wish.com in cash, not using shares, for $173 million reduce, which is a very uncommon thing to do. You would assume that Q10 was doing very well to be able to cough up such an amount in cash, or were they? The cash purchase of Wish raised eyebrows because Wish.com was already a declining company, and it's not difficult to imagine why, because I've seen so many YouTube videos of people just buying shitty made-in-China products from Wish.com and then complaining and saying what a terrible website Wish is because of the super cheap and knockoff products. And I guess that's just not a very good brand image for Wish. That's why it started to decline. Also, Temu was storming the American market as well, which severely impacted the sales on Wish. So in hindsight, perhaps it wasn't such a good investment by Q10. Everyone thought Q10's company buying spree would outsmart Shopee and Lazada's celebrity ads, like your Ronaldo shopping ad. Man, what a shock, huh? What a surprise that was when it landed. I think I even made a video years ago talking about that advertisement, and also the Jackie Chan dancing advertisement. But I gotta say, you know, give it to them lah. They actually got eyeballs. Shopee is known for their cringy and like, I guess, very attention-grabbing advertisement. But that's when trouble erupted. Before 2024, there were no obvious signs of struggle. Q10's cash purchase of Wish even suggested that they were thriving, but nothing could be further from the truth. It turned out that Q10 had a huge backlog of delayed payments, which they initially claimed as technical glitches. So they tried to siam lah, basically. They tried to like, you know, tai chi the responsibility away and say, oops, it's just technical glitches. We still got money, but due to technical glitches, we couldn't pay our merchants. But that's bullshit. By July 2024, the situation escalated when South Korean merchants from Tmall and WeMakePrice, the two companies that Q10 bought, reported non-payments totaling millions. Around 60,000 merchants were unpaid, and the crisis was so dire that South Korean authorities offered loans to help them survive. Investigations revealed that Q10 had diverted funds from their subsidiary companies that they bought to finance the purchase of Wish.com in cash. By By late August, layoffs hit Singapore HQ, slashing over 80% of staff, most of which were locals. RIP, jobless Singaporeans. Soon, even Singaporean merchants reported non-payments, and by mid-September, the Singapore police were investigating. Q10 then went silent, dodging even reporters, and on September 23rd, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, halted its payment services. In October, Korean prosecutors sought arrest warrants for the CEO of Q10 because they were afraid that he would destroy the evidence and just fuck off. The final blow came when creditors, some of which owed over $72 million, got the Singapore High Court to order Q10 to wind up. This means that no matter what, Q10 must sell off all their assets to pay off their debts, and after that, panggang, close down. So basically, Q10 pokai liao, they're gone. HMV. Holy shit, HMV brings back so much memories. We are transporting back to the early 90s with our long fringes covering half our faces and contrast skinny jeans. A lot of you younger viewers have never even heard or know what HMV is. What is that? Is that a new STD that's coming up? No siree. HMV served up music and movies to the masses by making browsing feel like a cultural quest. Think of it as pre-digital Spotify, but with actual shelves and a vibe that turned shopping into a social spot. And it was exactly that made every young person from across Singapore want to be seen at HMV. Basically, it made them look like a scene kid lah. Every cool kid wanted to be seen at HMV. Like, yeah, check me out bro, browsing some cool Nirvana CDs. Look at me and my exquisite music taste, browsing through CDs. But nowadays we don't really have that, because who the hell listens to CDs nowadays? It's just download or listen straight from Spotify.
Nowadays, the trend is people showcase their Spotify playlists and make
post on Instagram. Post their wrap-up, Spotify wrap-up. Look at my wrap-up, guys. Look at what I listen to. I guess the subpar equivalent today would be that of a cargo pants wearing dude browsing vinyl records at Kapo building, you know, holding a soy milk latte in their hand and a plant in the other hand. Yes, they're holding a plant. Soy boy plant on their hand. $100 plant on their hand. Yes, they hold a plant and browse the vinyls with their nose. But yeah, that was essentially what HMV was, a cool hangout spot for teens and young adults to browse CDs. It all kicked off in 1997 when HMV sauntered into our Lion City with a 25,000 square foot mega store at the Heron in Orchard Road. Now, this wasn't just a store, it was a 3-story cathedral packed with CDs and DVDs. It was the largest music emporium Singapore had ever seen, perfectly timed to ride the wave of a pre-digital era when physical media reigned supreme. Orchard Road was the beating heart of youth culture, and HMV planted its flag like a conquistador claiming new land. The Heron store was a vibe factory. Teens would come in to flip through racks of Backstreet Boys and Radiohead. HMV had listening stations buzzing with the latest earworms such as Wannabe and Creed. Imagine AG teens just fucking emoing in the listening booth, listening to Creed. I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. So cool, man. It was a social beacon for Gen Xers and early millennials plotting hangouts for first dates amid the aisles. That's quite cute lah. First date. I've never had a first date in HMV, but I can imagine, you know.
We were probably too young to do dates there.
I never really hung out at HMV though. I think when late teens, HMV was dying off already for us. Yeah, but when I was very young, it still gave an impression that HMV damn cool. The chain flexed its muscles further, sprouting outlets in CityLink Mall in 2001 and 313 at Somerset in 2009, cementing its reign as Singapore's music monarch. But alas, every empire meets its demise, and HMV's was brought upon by the onslaught of digitalization. Napster and LimeWire crashed the party in 1999, unleashing peer-to-peer piracy that turned music into a free-for-all. Why shell out $20 for a CD when you could steal it off the internet? Guilty. I used LimeWire back then to download all my music. Then came the arrival of Apple's iTunes, and a few years later, Spotify. HMV's descent was a slow-motion car crash. Their kingdom of plastic started crumbling, and by 2002, the Heron flagship store shrank its footprint, and after 12 years of glory, HMV had to bid farewell to the Heron. HMV's CityLink store closed in 2011, and HMV consolidated at Marina Square that same year, clinging on to relevance like a fading rock star. Desperate, they pivoted to selling books, t-shirts, headphones, and video games. However, this couldn't stop the empire's fall, and in 2013, the store at 313 Somerset shut its doors, leaving Marina Square as the last outpost. By then, the writing was already on the wall, and on September 30th, 2015, HMV's Marina Square doors shut for good, ending an 18-year run in Singapore never to be seen here again. However, it's worth noting that HMV has had a steady return in the UK where it originated from, starting around the mid-2010s as vinyl records saw a surprising resurgence fueled by collectors, audiophiles, and younger generations rediscovering analog formats. HMV capitalized on this trend, positioning itself as a go-to destination for vinyl enthusiasts, and by 2019 it was reporting record vinyl sales, often outperforming its competitors in this niche. As of early 2025, HMV continues to thrive in a niche market. It has leaned into trends like exclusive vinyl releases and collaborations with artists while benefiting from a broader cultural shift towards retro media, which I think is a no-brainer move. I think that was a good pivot for them, like to capitalize on this resurging vinyl trend. That's kind of like the life cycle of culture. It's always regressing back to the past and appreciating the older things, appreciating retro designs, which shares a similar thread with our next brand, Toys R Us. So I had a conversation with our producer, Annabelle, just now. So she pronounces Toys R Us as Toys R Us. Toys R Us.
I say it as Toys R Us.
Toys R Us. We combine it together lah. Toys R Us. Sounds sleek, sounds cool.
It's one word.
Toys R Us. So Toys R Us, or Toys R Us, has a rather interesting backstory. It didn't necessarily experience a major fall in Singapore, but more of a stumble and then a very smart recovery. Because right now it's definitely on the come up again, even after the US arm of Toys R Us has filed for bankruptcy and has since closed down all its stores. So how did Toys R Us in Asia manage to stave off the retail Grim Reaper while its US counterparts just failed miserably? Toys R Us has a soft spot in my heart, man. Do you remember North Point has a Toys R Us at the top floor?
I don't remember it as the top floor. I thought it was the third.
But yeah, one of the top floors lah.
Fun fact, do you know Toys R Us is my first job?
Really?
I used to earn $5 an hour.
Oh, that's peasant pay, man. That's why it has such a soft spot for us millennials. Yeah, it's super nostalgic. For me, I spent many birthdays there because my parents would always take me there on my birthday to like, hey, pick up a toy. Toys R Us stormed into Singapore in 1984, and by 1986, it established itself in Forum Galleria in Orchard Road, staking a claim in the city's retail centre. The 90s saw its operation explode, opening outlets in Parkway Parade, Suntec City, Tampines Mall, and many more, peaking at over 20 stores by the early 2000s. It was a plastic paradise where Joffrey the giraffe ruled as the unofficial mascot of childhood dreams. Do you remember Joffrey the giraffe?
I honestly don't remember.
Hey, you were an employee at Toys R Us, you don't know Joffrey the giraffe? It was
They
their
never
iconic
told us
mascot.
its name, and how would I know his name?
But you got
is
see before
Joffrey.
this giraffe?
It's a bit familiar, but I didn't know that it's called Joffrey.
Yeah, seeing this stupid ass giraffe was so nostalgic, man. Toys R Us dwarfed rivals like Kiddie Palace, like ew, Kiddie Palace, ew, pui, with sheer scale and brand muscle, cementing its reign. Every kid in Singapore wanted to go to Toys R Us to pick out their birthday present, including me. It's worth mentioning that the Asian arm of Toys R Us is a completely separate entity from its US arm, and I think this part of the story is particularly interesting because we'll see how the very same brand would meet very different fates across the globe. So Toys R Us in the US didn't just trip, it belly flopped into oblivion. The fatal blow came from a 2005 leveraged buyout which settled it with $5.3 billion in debt. Annual interest payments of $400 million was bleeding the company dry, and by 2017, profits were negligible. When Toys R Us US filed for bankruptcy in September 2017, it owed $7.9 billion against its $6.6 billion in assets. But that's not all. Then came the digital guillotine. US e-commerce toy sales soared while foot traffic tanked. Big box retail was dying. Malls lost 10% of their stores between 2010 and 2017. And the thing with Toys R Us is that they always had huge spaces. Like even in the outlets in Singapore, I always remember it being like super big, super spacious, huge floor space. And you can imagine how much rent they were paying. Cultural shifts also piled on. Kids went from action figures to Fortnite, Lego to Minecraft, and Barbie to Roblox. Nobody was interested in physical toys anymore, and every kid was glued to their screens. The US fall of Toys R Us was a perfect storm. Death drowned it, digital ate it, and culture ditched it. But that's not to say Toys R Us wasn't suffering here in Singapore and Asia as well during this time. After the US parent company's 2017 bankruptcy and liquidation of all 735 American stores, the Singapore arm faced a wobbly moment. Store numbers had shrunk from a peak of over 20 stores in Singapore in the 2000s to just 10 by 2018, with closures like Jurong Point hinting at a fade out. Yeah, I remember like back then Toys R Us stores were just closing down left and right, and when the one at North Point closed down, Oh, my heart damn pain eh. I was so sad, man. When the one at North Point closed, I remember thinking like, okay, Toys R Us, GG already. And it made sense because like internet coming, you know, everyone playing games, no one's really buying toys anymore. It made a lot of sense to me and I could see why. But I was just damn sad. Like my heart, I could feel it physically aching, man. But here's the very fortunate kicker. Toys R Us did not collapse in Singapore or in Asia. Toys R Us Asia, a separate entity, 70% owned by Fung Retailing, got a lifeline when they bought out the US stake for $21 million, severing ties with the bankrupt mothership in the US. By 2020, it stabilized at 11 stores in Singapore, but more importantly, it pivoted its growth strategy like a pro. Singapore's mall culture endured, and Toys R Us shrank its store sizes to be more efficient. It leaned into events like toy launches and meet and greet, turning toy stores into experiences and not just shelves. But the most important pivot was to cater to kidults in Asia. Kidults are basically adults with cash who love collecting toys.
I feel attacked, man.
But that's a good thing. Kidults not... Why are you so sensitive? Are you guilty for spending so much money on toys? Kidults are basically adults with adult money who love collecting toys, often for nostalgia's sake. And this fueled a nostalgia boom for Toys R Us. The outlets in Paragon and VivoCity also had a major glow-up which turned them into sleek, geek-friendly hubs for toy-loving adults with money, baby. It now greets customers by its entrances with stacks of blind boxes and Pokemon figurines, all waiting to be displayed on a kidult's office work desk, while toys for children and newborns are placed in the back of the store. So you can clearly see what their strategy is here. They're aiming at adults with adult money. Doesn't that just make so much sense? Like a kid would usually just want maybe a single Nerf gun, a single Barbie doll, and then the parents would unwillingly buy like, okay, just one present, I'll just pick out one present. But if an adult goes into a toy store, you know that motherfucker is gonna turn the fuck up. He's gonna splurge, like take my money. You know, especially with blind boxes nowadays, it's getting so popular. Or even like Lego sets. Lego sets are so expensive. Adult sets are so expensive, they cost a few $100s. I even recently bought a Batman Lego set that cost like a couple $100s. So that's a very smart move in my opinion. Toys R Us now has a steady 11 stores dotted around Singapore and has seen an increase in foot traffic to its interactive and immersive stores. It's actually been quite a while since I visited a Toys R Us store. I actually feel like going to one now. Like, it feels so fun. And also for nostalgia's sake, just thinking about it brings me joy. You know, it's making a comeback. Yes. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Consider subscribing if you did. And let me know if you enjoy this kind of videos. I'll be making more, I guess, what would you call this? Things that I find interesting. And I hope you guys find it interesting as well. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.